people want to know, is the water safe? I've heard the word chlorine and THMLs and disinfectants more than I want when we're talking about drinking water. Specifically, can there ever be water with no trace elements? And what more can the district do to be more transparent? And I want to present that question perhaps in a different way that some of my council members have. I want to work towards restoring confidence in our constituents, in our consumers of this final product. I've got a couple other points to touch on, but just kind of simply, if we could get some reassurances from any one of you gentlemen, I think for the folks at home, perhaps even the folks here in the audience, I think I heard the message of the water is safe, but I would really like to hear it from the expert, any one of you who have delivered this message tonight of the charts, the data, the chemicals, the distance the water has to travel, the ultimate result of what comes out of the tap. Is that water safe enough?
For all the water tests, I've been in this business for 23 years. We run tests on a regular basis. Your water is safe to drink. It is more than safe. It's an excellent source of water. We have an excellent quality of water. We test. I have a group of men and women that are dedicated to ensuring that the water stays safe. We flush, we test every day, and we take it very seriously, and the water is safe.
Change in palatability is the human body's first defense mechanism when something is wrong. If you can smell it, if you can taste it, what's the first thing a baby does? Pushes it away. That's our defense mechanism. The fallback playbook position. I'm going to take this as somebody that has been in the water industry for 35 years. This is my industry. This is what I was taught at the college that I went to and had water courses in 1979. Our water meets or exceeds all federal and state safe drinking water act requirements. I mean, I think that there are water professionals out there that have that tattooed on the inside of their arm. I refuse to say it anymore other than in this situation. YTCQ requires an exemption request for chloramine use. Did you know that you can't just use chloramine in Texas? You have to apply and you have to get an exemption. Their words, not mine. It's actually called an exemption. Well, because the use of chloramine as a secondary disinfectant for compliance with disinfectant byproducts is a complex chemistry. It's complex. They have to put extra rules around it because it's not easy to do. It's a weaker disinfectant. Only half the states in the United States have a minimum chlorine residual requirement. I live in a state, California. It's any detectable amount. Could be 0.00001. It's any detectable amount in California. In Texas, it's 0.2. Okay? And for chloramine, because they don't like it so much, it's 0.5. Okay? So you actually have to more than double the dose of chloramine to use it in Texas, and it requires an exemption. Why? It leads to nitrification and biofilm. If not maintained in a consistent, perfect balance, it forms toxic chemicals.
How are these standards set? We've had some folks in the audience come and speak and reference different sources, different data points, and obviously we have to comply with federal, state, and local standards. So how are those standards set? Subset of that, why does Texas require the chlorine residual? And why are the THMs, this question may have already been asked already, but why are the THMs measured as an annual average? I think, Will, you might have touched on that a little bit. If you could expand on that a little bit, perhaps those three, how are the standards set? Why does Texas require the chlorine residual? And why are the THMs measured as an annual average?
Standards for water quality start at the federal government level, and they are set in a very open, scientific, and transparent process that includes public comment periods, public engagement, weighing of the various opinions of the scientific community. Very exhaustive process where all the available research is looked at. The economic impacts of implementing two new technologies is looked at, because we still have to wrestle with the affordability of water. It is possible to try to attempt to deliver any public service at a price that leaves out half the population or the population. So they're looking to start there. What's the science, what are the health impacts? Get the doctors in the room, get the scientific community to weigh in. What's the research say? They weigh that. And they look at the cost and the technology, what are the available technologies. We can measure things in water. We can measure things today that we can't take out. Just fact. There's a UCMR rule out there where the federal government is tracking emerging contaminants, things that we don't know a lot about. They're tracking. They can detect things at a level we can't take out. Technology catching up. So the rulemaking process weighs all these things. Very public, get public comments, get the opinions in there, get the professionals in there, and ultimately a law is adopted. It comes down to the state, Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, looks at the federal regulations. We have state primacy, which means that actually it's technically the TCEQ rules we follow, not the EPA rules, but they start with the EPA rules as well. What they realize, because of science, because we all accept and we all know we've been talking about, prolonged elevated exposure to THN with this special byproduct is harmful to your health. We established that. That's in the science, that's in the whole rulemaking to begin with. Well, the stage two, what they said is, okay, the averaging statistics, we talked about statistics, averaging masks the high elevated numbers it can in some cases. So what stage two did is it came along and it said, look, what we've got under stage one is we can have some localities within systems where there are elevated, prolonged, harmful levels of disinfection byproducts. And in other areas, it's just fine. But the averaging is masking it out, and we have people out there, citizens who are exposed under stage one to very harmful levels for a prolonged period of time. Remember, real high levels, long period of time. That's the key. That's what's going to hurt you.
The science of trihalomethane is based on toxicological studies from the 70s. Okay, they were beefed up a little bit in the 80s, and the regulation, was written in 1996. All these studies and health effects associated with trihalomethane exposure are from 1998, 1999, 2000, 2004, and they don't talk about drinking 2 liters of water every day for 40 years and an increase in 1 in 10,000 people might get bladder cancer. Okay? I don't know about you, but that doesn't really bother me a whole lot. It's not good, but when they tell you, it's like an x-ray, you have a 1 in 10,000 chance of getting bladder cancer. But what they didn't tell you is all those studies that I just referenced, and they're medical studies done in various places in the United States and out of the United States, they talk about drinking water at 75 parts per billion, not 80, had a marked increase in miscarriages and in the first trimester and low birth weight in the second and third trimester. Last time I checked, a trimester wasn't 40 years. Okay, so we're talking about exposures that are exactly in this time frame. And that's the concern.
So stage two came along and said, no more averages, no more, okay, you can no longer have that rough part of town that we just can't manage as a distribution system and just have problems with and just kind of ignore it because, not that we do that, but you just can't ignore it. So then stage two said, every single point has to stand on its own 2 feet. So if you have 20 points, every point in the city has to have a running annual average of 8. And the rule it talks about, and the rule it states, and the rule it gives examples of what compliance looks like. And it's very clear. 80 is not an instantaneous threshold. You can have above, and as long as on an annual average basis, you are below the 80. That is the limit of the risk. We talked about risk. I appreciate the comment about risk because it's absolutely true. That's what we're talking about here. If we don't disinfect, disinfection mitigates bacteriological risk. Bacteriological risk is where we start getting these waterborne diseases that 150 years ago killed lots and lots of people. So we can disinfect, we mitigate that risk, but in the consequence of disinfection, there's still are some other risks. And that 80 level is based on the research, and it is not risk-less. We talked about it. High level of exposure to disinfection byproducts, a long period of time, leads to, science shows, leads to problems.
Plano has an excellent plan of when they go into a chlorine burn, exactly what valves are supposed to close, what valves are supposed to open, what fire hydrants are supposed to discharge from, and how they're supposed to do all that. How many Plano residents saw flushing going on during the chlorine burn? They were doing it in a lot of locations. Because I've seen and heard that they weren't doing it in a lot of locations. And Plano may have done some, but many of the utilities didn't do any. So during the chlorine burn, all that biofilm, accumulated sludge, it went in your houses. It didn't go out the fire hydrants. This is the placation part. We did expect some test results which show elevated PHM levels during chlorine maintenance. However, this does not raise any concerns whatsoever. This is the X-ray comment regarding health and safety of water at those locations. THMs can be compared to X-rays. It can cause an impact on health over a very long period of time, only if consumed daily at high levels. In other words, having an X-ray done occasionally does not expose a person to extended, high, or potentially unhealthy risk. If that same person were exposed to X-rays every day for a lengthy period of time, say years, it may cause an impact on health. That was insulting. No question about it. That was insulting. One of the biggest problems with THM regulation is, again, it's based on 2 liters, an adult person drinking it for 40 years. What they don't talk about in the Safe Drinking Water Act is dermal absorption and inhalation. Trihalomethanes are actually listed as air regulations and a toxic indoor air pollution. So I've talked to people in this room who have literally come to me and said, people would come over to my house and it smelled like a swimming pool in my house. When you smell those odors in your house, that's not decaying chlorine, that's trihalomethane. That's what gives that odor to that chlorine-like smell. And when you smell it in your house, you're smelling trihalomethane.
The one thing I would add about chlorine residuals, and I'm the old guy in the room of water, I've been in the business for 49 years now, and it gives me confidence in the supply when I can smell chlorine residuals over there. I know the water is safe for me and my family. So that's something, chlorine is not bad. And I know a lot of people think differently, but I am a lot more confident in the supply if I know it has chlorine in it.
So we mitigate that risk, and so that's where you get the locality. It's not a running annual average, it's not instantaneous. Prolonged high levels of exposure, where you can start to have problems. And there are always. It's just like, my children don't have problems with peanuts. Some kids have problems with peanuts. They have a reaction to it. They physiologically, they can't touch peanuts or peanut butter or anything, they have a reaction. And the fact is, that when it comes to chlorine, there are some people who are more sensitive, just like in that example. So that's going to happen, and if people have those kinds of reactions and things, my goodness, please go see your healthcare professional. If there's a problem going on, go find out. We're talking to a medical doctor, somebody who lives in that world of epidemiology, toxicology, whatever the case may be, and find out if something else is going on. Did you have a propensity to be really sensitive to that point?
DHM, bromodichloromethane, has been identified as a mutagen which alters DNA. Mutagens are considered to affect the genes or genetics of future generations in addition to being carcinogenic. So one of those 4 is a mutation, or a mutagen. A California study indicates that trihalomethanes may be responsible for reproductive problems and miscarriage. The study found a miscarriage rate of 15.7% for women who drank 5 or more glasses of cold water containing more than 75 parts per billion, compared to a miscarriage rate of 9.5 for women who didn't. In addition to these risks, trihalomethanes are linked to bladder cancer, heart, lung, and kidney and liver, and central nervous system damage. Those are the facts. Those are what the new health studies say.